don't think I belong here. I don't think I fit in.
Oh, nonsense. Of course you do.
Oh, no, I mean it. I mean it. It's just somebody must have goofed if I gotta stay here another day.
Peace! Professor Griff, public enemy, the ex-minister.
Which means it's too strong.
Now you can hear me. Miss B, can you hear me? Moving the crew support team, can you hear me? Jay Dizzle, too. All right. Griff, Mike, good, a.k.a. Michael Muhammad. What's good with you, man? The Mike God, what's happening? You all right? Yeah, I heard your joint, man. I'm going to have to work with you on that remix, though. All right? You're going to have to put a little flow in that flow. We'll talk about that later on. Anyway, we can hear you now. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right, in the meantime, between time, we are talking about Niger. All right? A lot to talk about. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to cover everything, but let's get a basic understanding of where everyone is at in reference to understanding this particular thing on a international. And then when it comes to Africa, we can honestly say on a global scale, simply because there's other countries, other governments that are involved. Now, I'm not sure. First of all, let me just greet everyone. Peace. How's everyone doing? Thank you all for joining me. This is Professor Griff, and of course, this is Serious Minds RNTV. And the delay was, I was coming on at 7. StreamYard had me go back and delete at least 10 shows because they said I ran out of space. So then when I deleted the 10 shows and had to reboot and came back on, it threw all my settings off and that kind of thing. So we're black in the building. All right. Anyway, if you do not have your finger on the pulse of what's going on the global or international front, all right, then you might not understand this conversation that we're having right now. So what I'm going to need you to do is just kind of rock with us a little bit, all right? In the situation, in the position that countries in Africa, all right, we got to get that straight first, brothers and sisters. Family, Africa is not a country. I'm going to let y'all marinate on that. Y'all help me out. I'm not talking down to you. I'm just, some of the texts and messages I've been getting about, yeah, no. Absolutely not. We're not doing that. not doing that. Hold on, fam. Yo, I think that's true. What my wife showed me this thing that she put up on her Instagram page where there's this lion singing. Did that just happen? Yeah. Anyway, they said them rough and tough, high brand, militant, radical Leos really want to be some soft ass R&B singers. Anyway, okay, let's dive into this. So now, if y'all know any Leos, don't hold that against them. They're just trying to balance it out. That's all. All right, so if you haven't been keeping your finger on the pulse of what's been going on the continent, not country, but countries are in Africa. Africa is not a country. There are countries inside of Africa. Africa is the continent of Africa. All right, 50 some odd countries are in Africa. We're talking about Niger. All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So now, Africa, the vast majority of Africa under colonial rule have slowly been breaking themselves and taking themselves out from under the hand of their white oppressors. All right. There was a hint of it in the movie Black Panther. The idea of the colonizers still colonizing Africa and extracting the natural resources and minerals out of Africa to build white nations. All right. Needs to be understood by black people on a global scale. Okay. It is amazing how white people around the world, all right, especially in America, say that black people are so poor and so this, that, and the other. Africa is the most richest place on the planet. But we don't benefit from the riches of Africa simply because we have exploiters, we have colonizers, we have demons and devils in Africa ruling and running Africa, either by them being there themselves or propping up these dictators whom they support, all right, with finance, with arms, with troops, with intimidation, using the IMF or the World Bank. IMF, you know the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, or the International yeah, you know what I'm talking about. All right? So, yeah. So now, we have to understand the dynamic and what's going on. I want to give a shout out, all right, to my good brothers here. All right, this is, Melanated Strap. This show is brought to you by Melanated and Strapped, all right? Are you melanated and strapped? I know Dexter Jerome Piggins, the ex-dancer for MC Hammer. I know he's melanated and strapped. Anyway, so Africa now, seeing this, younger people that have been studying inside and outside of Africa, some even studying in America and going back to Africa, but they're more awake and aware now. Here we go with this term woke again. But anyway, now they've grown up and now they're adults and now they're seeing what their parents have been through under the thumb of white people in America. All right. This is why they don't want you studying the countries in Africa. This is why they don't want you looking into the affairs of your brothers and sisters in Africa. This is why they keep a disconnect from black people here in Africa, black people here in America, and in Africa. All right, peace, Quan. What's good with you? All right. So now we have to understand a particular dynamic. So there are countries in Africa and governments in Africa that are waking up now. All right. And they want to take control of the natural resources in Africa. They want to take control of their land in Africa, and they're kicking these white countries and these white governments and these white rulers and these white colonialists, and these white military, the white military, out of these white countries that are in Africa, exploiting Africa and Africa's resources. All right, that's basic across the board. So if you start looking at some of the countries, you have to understand the reason why they had to assassinate Muammar Gaddafi. All right? The reason why they had to set up, I'm reading right here, it says Burkina Faso's president, Russia is family for Africa. South Africa is rising up. Burkina Faso and other places are rising up. Niger is rising up to get white people out of Africa. Nigeria and other places do not want white people in Africa ruling and controlling and taking Africa's natural resources to make white people richer and richer, richer and richer, and the black people that are there living in Africa suffer. So we have to understand this dynamic and how this particular thing works on a global scale. It's going to take all of us to understand this in order for us to give back to our homeland, which is Africa. So you find some Negroes, I'm not mentioning any names, but I think he's 50 and old, and he's a boxer, basically said that he's not African American. He's an American. He was born in America. I got to turn my head around on that one. Can I pause for a minute? Because you're born in America, that don't make you American. If a Chinese person is born in Chinatown, New York, does that make them American? No, they're Chinese, right or wrong. Wait a minute, family. Stop typing for a second. Stop sending messages. Stop in the chat. We need to get past this part first. If a German Shepherd gave birth to other little German Shepherds in Detroit, Michigan, are they still German Shepherds? Mansour Celestine, you're absolutely wrong. You said, are some black people in America 100% indigenous to America? They're indigenous to this place, but it wasn't called America, Mr. Mansour, sir. It wasn't called America when they're indigenous to this land. It hasn't always been called America. Yours is not empty, sir. No, yours is full. You just don't recognize what your cup is filled with. Anyway, back to the boxer. If a French poodle is born, all right, in Alabama, is it not a French poodle? I'm waiting on y'all. Because just because you was born in America, that don't make you an American. No. Why do we try so hard not to be African? Why do we try so hard not to be black? Why do we try so hard not to be indigenous to the planet? We try extra hard. Back to Niger. We have to be very mindful that this is exactly what they want us to say and do. They want us to separate ourselves from one another, and then separate ourselves from Africa first, then separate ourselves from one another here in America and throughout the world. Let's stop playing that game. All right, Mr. Mansour, let's stop playing that game, sir. All right? No one else does this but us. All right, if a Russian is born in Kansas City, they're still Russian. Yes? No? Maybe? Help me out with your thinking. Because I think mine is, I'm cool with mine, but I'm trying to understand your thinking. All right? Yeah, they're still Russian. Okay, so, but because we had indigenous people that were already here on this land before it was called America, right? And then some demons and devils came and got some more of us and brought us here. All right? And then now, all of a sudden, some years later, you think you American? No. You look like anybody that's walking around right now in Niger. You look like anybody that's walking around right now in Burkina Faso and some other places. Stop that, family. You need to widen your scope and broaden your thinking on get laser focused on the spirit that runs through your body and the blood that runs through your vein. You can get dropped off right now in almost any country in Africa, and they'll think you from there. Well, probably the fucked up clothes your ass wearing some other shit. They probably say, well, no, that person ain't from here. Probably the way you act, the way you talk, and some of the things you say. And you start looking around for goddamn Kentucky Fried Chicken and Popeyes and shit. They probably won't, yeah, no. So I'm just saying to you, other than your behavior and how you sound, how you talk, how you move, no, you just as African as an African. But what were we before we were called Africans? That's my point. Some of y'all need to get back to that and do a little bit deeper thinking. All right? So a lot of y'all want to hold on to these titles and these labels for whatever reason. I don't know. Somebody will fight you if you tell them they're not from the south side of Chicago or the east side of Detroit or uptown or Brooklyn or whatever or southwest side of Atlanta. Stop that, man. That's child's play. That's some third grade thinking. Anyway, you have that kind of thinking while the white man is in Africa stealing all the natural minerals and raw materials, building a world for himself while you sit back and argue about what side of town you're from or whether or not you're African or not. Y'all are foolish, man. And y'all will come up on this post wanting to argue about what we call certain things. You said South Side of Chicago's where you from? Y'all are killing me already. I can see some of y'all about to get your ass blocked. But anyway, well, wherever you think you're from, are you going to insist that, are you going to begin to do a deeper dive and thinking in how we can assist our brothers and sisters in Niger? That's the point I'm trying to make. Regardless of where you're from. Let's see where your thinking is. Think you need to know. Some of these idiots on here will never get it. And I'm not expecting them to. And that's a simple concept. So let's understand the dynamic and where you're going to lend your energy and your resources. Right? No, Africa is our throne. The planet is our home. We just used to rule it from that part of the world. That's all. I mean, everywhere we went, our footprint is in every corner of the earth. You understand what I'm saying? We were something else before this planet got colonized by these other people. So for you to stake claim to a name after these other people done renamed it. Like, for example, what was the name of Nigeria before it was Nigeria? Because we got some proud Nigerians running around here that's so proud that don't even know the history of Nigeria. Anyway, and that is the one thing that I think that they use to divide us. Even in this conversation I'm trying to have with you now about the coup and the things that's going on in Nigeria right now and other places in Africa, in order for us to have the conversation, we got to spend 20 damn minutes on who are we? Where are we from? And that's going to take up the whole damn conversation for the last 15 minutes. So we can't make progress because the very thing that they put in place for us to argue about, we ended up arguing about it. And we never get a chance to even talk about the coup that went down in Nigeria, how Russia is trying to aid certain countries in Africa and that kind of thing, and China and other places. And yeah, we can't even get a chance to talk about the grand chess game that's going on that Brzezinski talked about, Zbigniew Brzezinski talked about. All right, we studied and kind of figured this thing out. All right, you're right. We need to unlearn in order to relearn. Thank you. And it's a divide and conquer concept that they use. So anyway, the reason why they had to, wait a minute, before we do that, are we familiar with the Berlin Conference? I mean, I'm just kind of basic stuff. Like I said, I'm not talking down or at anyone. I'm just asking some questions to facilitate a conversation. Do we know what happened when they divided up Africa? So do we know about the Berlin Conference? And can we get on the same page here? You said Nigeria was named by a British journalist. What was Nigeria called, though? Shamara Orthodox Doze. Is that your answer? Okay. Y'all coming up with it. Y'all too damn smart. How come I can't just get a basic answer from someone? It's like, why is this so difficult? This cracker did a number on us. Why is this so difficult, family? Thank you, Miss Nebraska. The Berlin Conference gathered a bunch of Europeans together to plot ways to divide and carve up Africa. It is called the Scramble for Africa. Do me a favor. Go to Google right now and put in the Scramble for Africa. What was Nigeria called before it was Nigeria? That's the question that I'm asking, Kwan. I think I'm asking that question. We need like a real solid answer because that is the perfect example to give you so then we can understand not to get caught up and hung up on the label on the back of the shirt here. Is it serving its purpose? Yeah. It's gray. It matches my hat. I'm promoting these melanated and strapped, giving them some play. All right. Yeah. It's serving its purpose. This is what I'm trying to get you to understand. Look beyond the petty stuff. All right? Look beyond the petty stuff so we can kind of dive in. All right? So if we're talking about the Royal Niger country territories, if we're talking about the Benin Empire, if we're talking about just basic stuff in history, these are the things that we should already know. So then when the conversation comes up, we don't have to argue about what we're called. If we was already black, if we was already all of these things prior to them calling the place Africa, then yeah, we gods and goddesses. We are the indigenous people. All right? So let's not get hung up into the other stuff. Because it seems like the further away they move you from Africa, the more crazy and ignorant we get. So now you just, you know, D, that nigga from the east side. Are you much more than just D, the nigga from the east side or the west side? Stop, man. All right, so the scramble for Africa, you got that. Now let's look at Niger and what's going on with that small bit of history behind us. How long has France been there? Taking the natural minerals and the natural resources out of Africa to serve France. Putting people in place and getting paid by France, United States, and other countries and other governments. Right? Okay. When a leader decides to run for office and the people elect that leader according to whatever their system of government is, and that leader comes to power to take back the natural resources and the reins of power. And the same people that's been exploiting him all his parents' life, now he wants to kick those people out of his country so they can reap the benefits of the natural resources that particular country has. We saw it coming from France because now France just doesn't have a real reason to be there, simply because there's a leader in place now and he's basically saying, well, we don't need France anymore. All right? If you look up Niger, and the coup and the coup and the leaders that accuse France of violating not only the airspace, but of freeing terrorists to fight to keep Africa dependent on France. No, these countries want to be free of their colonial slave masters. All right? Don't start putting up in the comments, Africa slaved its own people and sold it. Say that conversation for somebody else. You end up getting your ass handed to you on this channel. We're not trying to hear that. That's another conversation for another day. We're talking about Niger right now. We're talking about France's stranglehold of not only Niger, but other white governments' stranglehold over Burkina Faso, Niger, Libya, Mali, South Africa, and about 9 other places that we can mention. So stop that. If you understand the scramble for Africa, you know what happened to us in Africa. I said us. Yeah, you. You're right. China and other people are there. So if the idea of the Niger's the coup leaders, I mean, they overthrew the government to take back its natural resources. So the people rose up and they kicked France out. And then we have Negroes that want to do, I went on all of their channels and just left them some flaming commentary. You want to start talking about Africans fighting Africans and this, that. It's the same divide and conquer plan and plot. And same trick that they use on us, they use on our brothers and sisters in Africa. Divide and conquer. Same trick. So let's understand this particular dynamic and how this particular thing is working. So they say the French forces released captured terrorists after France planes was dropping bombs in Niger. Why do you think France wants to keep a stranglehold over Niger after colonizing that particular country, according to the Scramble of Africa, the Berlin Conference? Let's talk. So there's a coup in Niger right now, just in case some of y'all didn't know. The people have taken to the streets in Niger. They want France out. So now the French are arming opposition groups to those particular Africans that have risen up and taken to the street that kicked France out. All right. And some people, black people, of course, you know, they're always going to get some numbskull, some idiot to come on and speak against his own people. We should expect that. All right. All right. Well, there's proof. I don't know your name or who you are. I'm sure you're probably a troll, but 8 Franks, I guess your name is. China and Russia have demonstrated the willingness to aid and do business, not manipulate, colonize, and control. Aid and do business. All right. With the governments that are already in place, not trying to overthrow the government by force and by using the military to keep in place the same old nonsense that's been going on. That's not. If you study before you come on making comments. All right. That's not Russia and China's position. If you actually take the time to sit and listen to those real, true black African leaders that are leading the country, they're actually doing business deals, not for China to come in and to control, not for Russia to come in and control. When Russia comes along and wipes away your debt, I'm not naming which country. You go study that for yourself, and wipes away a debt of $70 million, $70 billion. That's not a person that's trying to manipulate and control you. That's the person that's trying to help you get free yourself under your terms. So let's understand this dynamic. So if they're coming in and making business deals with the leaders that are being puppets and controlled by America, by being controlled by France and other places in Europe, and they come along and offer a deal, a business deal, then yeah, I'd rather work with China and Russia and do a business deal as opposed to taking aid from America, France, and other places. A loan that has to be paid back through the World Bank or the IMF, in which you're never, ever able to pay the loan back. Some of y'all need to do some studying outside of TikTok and YouTube. All right? Seriously. So if we're talking about what's going on in Niger, I think it's very clear. It's very clear to me what was going on, because this is the history of France and America. Or let's just stick with France. All right? So if a business deal is a business deal, it's a deal. All right? If Africa can't see how they're going to get themselves out of this situation, especially when they need military assistance, especially if they need other natural resources and they need training to build an infrastructure. All right? So then if we go into the business deals, like for example, I think I heard some sisters and some brothers from I think it was Kenya, and they were talking about other African countries that were sitting down with the Chinese to go over the contractual agreements, and when China is finished building the infrastructure, what does this particular African country or these African countries owe Africa? And I just said to myself, I'm questioning it myself. I'm like, well, if China's already been there, what was the business deals that they were already making? You see, when we get our news and information for the same people that's been colonizing Africa all this time, all right, and you have to make business deals with someone, all right, you either gonna make the business deals with people that you think on the surface and contractually might help you get out of the situation you're in. If somebody comes along and says, I'm going to wipe away your debt, and this is the business deal I want to make with you, get your lawyers, go over these international agreement that we have here. Of course, you need someone that's bilingual, that knows how to speak both languages, and that knows international law, and then you do the deal. Plain and simple. It's as simple as that. It's not complicated. All right? We know the history of all of these people that have been in Africa, extracting the natural minerals from Africa, and Africans not benefiting from it. We got to find a way to see ourselves out of this situation, simply because the black people we know here in America with money damn sure ain't helping Africa. They don't even call themselves African. So let's understand that particular dynamic and how that particular thing it works. So if you in America have did all this studying, then we're going to put you in contact with our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. There's a coup happening. All right? People are losing their lives right now. And if you claim you know and have the solution, then we're going to put you in touch with these people and let you give them the solution on what's going on with the business deals that China and Russia are making with African countries. All right? So now, Niger basically was like, look, we're trying to run our own government. We want to build an infrastructure. France is not allowing us to do that. America stepped up to the plate and offered Niger aid. Niger's leadership said, no, you keep your aid. We don't want your aid. All right? Why don't you aid the millions of people that are homeless in America? They do have a point. Why do you think? Read the book. I think it's by Economic Hitmen. I forgot the author's name. But they send these people in to destabilize governments. All right, forcing these countries into debt. Quan, you said economic reports watch closely. Blah 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 blah. Well, yeah. Well, Quan, I mean, African leaders in different countries got to trust someone. They can't trust the same old people that's been taking the natural resources out of Africa. So we have to start looking around and say, okay, who can Nigeria trust? Who can Kenya trust? Who can South Africans trust? All right. So if Russia have demonstrated that they're willing to, John Perkins, thank you very much. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Thank you very much, Need to Know. Right. Robert Nathaniel. Yeah, I truly understand that. I truly understand that, Robert Nathaniel. I bought a car and had a car note of X amount of dollars. When I looked closely at what I was paying, I ended up paying a whole lot more money than I expected on paying after 4 years of paying a car note. We understand that. But at that time, you're not thinking you need some transportation. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying these young leaders, black African leaders, with knowledge itself, that's coming up now and are the head of their particular government in their countries. And they're looking at these particular contracts. Now, these international treaties and contracts and international law, and they know and understand the mistake that their parents have made, and not only having to undo that, having to trust someone like China and Russia. Thank you very much. Yeah, they know who they can trust now because they've been robbed by everyone else. Yeah. I'm just saying to you, they have to trust someone. So they have to break away from France. They have to break away from Europe. They have to break away from America. Kwan, that's what they want you to believe. That is absolutely not true, Kwan. There's African countries right now that are sitting down at the table with one another. You're right, it's a lot of it. But now if we look closely at some of the countries in Africa, they're actually sitting down with one another because they understand the scramble for Africa, the Berlin Conference, and the history of Africa and what happened. So if you look at the history of Russia and its relationship to South Africa, then we can understand, if we go back into history, and we can understand why they'd rather trust Russia than to trust Europe. And until we can come together here and effect change there, I think the best thing for us to do is continue to study. All right? So it's very real that we got to trust somebody. I've been put in several positions that I had to trust someone. Shit, my house had burned down. So who do I trust? The same company that burned the house down, or the other company who I know are crooks? Help me out with that situation. You got to get gas. So which gas company do you trust? So it's a very touchy situation when it comes to Africa, when some people might have a different opinion on who they feel African leaders should trust to get Africa out of its debt. And Africa really doesn't have a debt because they've looted Africa, steal all the natural minerals from every country. And just like blacks in America has been enslaved after they've taken us from Africa and even enslaved the ones that was indigenous to this particular land, Africa was enslaved also and colonized. So we have to understand the whole entire picture. All right. Anyway, all right, so African leaders are sitting down with one another simply because they're going to need to join forces to defeat the colonizers. And that's just, I mean, it's simple. France has to go. France has to get out of Niger. But now if you turn on the global news and look at what's going on, it's very obvious as to what's happening. Western officials, Niger's junta warned they killed the post president after the military coup. Niger's coup leaders accuse France forces of destabilizing the government. This is what they want to do. They'll bomb Niger. They'll destabilize the government, come in with its aid, offer Niger aid to get itself back on its feet, and then they got to trust the same people that's been colonizing Niger for ages. Now, should the president of Niger be trusted? Who is this character? Is he a part of the people? Well, Sandra Robinson, someone tried to do that. Gaddafi tried to have one currency in Africa backed by gold, and they assassinated Muammar Gaddafi. America, France was in on it. France, America, I can't pull the other collaborators to mind. I don't know, Quan. I can't go with that one. Niger, the situation it's in, if you know details about what's happening there, they have to trust someone. Someone with a military that can neutralize France and America. Let's start playing chess here now. Come on. You got to neutralize America. You got to neutralize France. They have to trust someone. Hold on. Let's go through some independent news. West African leaders meet on Niger, but options are few as military junta defies mediation. All right. African leaders hold Nigeria summit after coup leaders close the airspace. All right. So I think it was Britain is the other country that I was looking for. France, Britain, and the United States. Now, don't get me wrong. There's certain, need to know. We know about BRICS, and that's a beautiful thing because other countries are getting together with other African countries, all right, to build the infrastructure and put leaders in place that truly love their people. That's not what's happening in Niger. Niger is being run by the president who belongs to a small group that don't represent the people that are there in Nigeria, pardon me. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Black American leaders like whom? What black leaders in America can Nigeria turn to? If we claim to know so much, especially about Africa and the infrastructure and the internal workings of a place like South Africa or Nigeria, who knows that in America that they can turn to that's sympathetic and empathetic, that's truly black and African, that really would give them some good advice without the United States government assassinating them over here. So those countries are getting together over there. It's not going to be overnight. They're gonna have their challenges. But if I was one of the leaders over there, I'd take my chances in trusting Russia and China. I take my chances with trusting neighboring countries, other black leaders there in Africa. I would take my chances in doing that, simply because I know if I had to call for military assistance, I know that these particular countries, if I had that kind of relationship with them, can aid us. Because right now, France could just bomb Nigeria back into the Stone Age. I just wouldn't trust the United States. All right. So then I'm looking at independent news. I'm looking at other news sources. Yeah, no, they want France out of Nigeria. If you know the history, the brutal history of France in Africa. All right. I think, Quan, the last 5 comments you made, Quan, I think you need to be a little bit more optimistic because even in South Africa, they're trying. There's no easy, simple way out of that. They need to riot right now. Not only in South Africa, but other places. You understand what I'm saying? They need to stand up because this is that time now. This is the time that they're supposed to. These systems are not going to take, for example, the system of racism, white supremacy in America is going to exist until we stand up, do everything that they're doing over there, until we stand up, all right, and change it and make it a system of justice. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. First group of British nationals evacuated from Niger after the military coup. You see, all of them are there. Britain, America, France, because they're extracting the natural resources out. So when you're talking about an embassy being set up, a military base being set up to rule and control the natural resources coming out of Nigeria, Nigeria said, no, enough is enough. South Africa said, no, enough is enough. We'll take to the streets to do whatever we have to do to get these people out of our country. I know some people right now that are squatting in some people's homes that I know. In Atlanta. They can't even get them people out of their damn homes. Thank you very much, Burdock44. It's one of the most positive things I heard tonight. Ben Frank was good with you. France can't control all of the colonies if they all stand up together globally. With the assistance of Russia and China, I think that's a good move. At least it's a chess move that we can understand. Muammar Gaddafi has demonstrated that we can control our own destiny by devaluing the dollar and devaluing all these other currencies that that's running the globe right now, and instituting a different form of currency. And if enough countries get together, all right, and get these people out of their country, they can take the natural resources and the people there can benefit. Do you realize 80% of the people in Nigeria don't have electricity? While all the natural resources are being taken out of Nigeria and being shipped to exported to France. And everyone in France has electricity, but the brothers and sisters in Nigeria are in the dark. Stop that. Come on, family. We got to be smarter than that. Anyway, past my bedtime. It's been a good conversation. I'm not one of them individuals that's going to end this program by saying we have to agree to disagree. That's not me. We're going to keep fighting lovingly, and we're going to keep having these discussions until we come up with a solution for our people. And those of us that truly mean business and want to get this information to our people over on the continent and offer solutions, then we'll do that. The rest of y'all that's on here just running your mouth and y'all don't plan on doing anything anyway, so be it. All right? Make sure you get trained, all right, for your ass end up in the same situation Nigeria is in. All right? Melanated and strapped. Go look them up. All right? If you want to take any firearms classes, just give me a call, 678-557-2919. Text me, 678-557-2919. Remember, those are our people. We one and the same. All right? We have to come up with viable solutions, not only for our situation here, but their situation there. Sometimes they need to hear it from us looking from the outside in. All right? Love you all to life. Salute. This is Professor Griff. Serious minds for serious minds. Seriously. All right? Peace.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In today's climate, being safe is priority number one. With crime on the rise, we're all left with this magical question. How can I be safe and protect my family? Well, Professor Griff is offering a course that's similar to laser tag, but it's for adults. This safe and firearm-free course will train you in real-life scenarios so that you can avoid being a victim. This course is growing in popularity as a date night out. Add fun and excitement back into your love life, and the reviews are incredible. For more information, call this number below.